Assalamualaikum dan selamat datang to Yang Amat Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, Prime Minister and Honorary President of Perdana Leadership Foundation, eminent guests, ladies and gentlemen who have just joined us at this point of the day. We have come to the finale of today's CEO Forum on celebrating the 4th Industrial Revolution in Malaysia. And on that, we have heard from 39 speakers in 6 concurrent sessions and 2 plenary sessions. All in all, the deliberations today have been very thought-provoking for most, I think, inspiring for some, and maybe very empowering for a few. Still, the best is yet to come, and that is the closing keynote address by Yang Amat Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, the Prime Minister of Malaysia. And for that, I'd like to invite YABhg, Tan Sri Asman Hashim, the Chairman of the Board of Trustees of Perdana Leadership Foundation, to come forward to say a few words and to invite the Prime Minister to deliver his closing keynote address.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, I find it very tough task actually to introduce someone who really needs no introduction. Anyway, here goes the things. I feel very blessed to be a Malaysian because our country is rich with natural resources and not subjected to these natural disasters, earthquakes and volcanoes and tsunamis and so on. And now, of course, we have a very interesting political scene. One politician who has played a very prominent role in all of our lives is none other than Yang Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. He is the 4th and now the 7th Prime Minister. Born in 1925 in a small town in Kedah, Tun is one of the few living Malaysian leaders who experienced life under the yoke of the British colonialists and the Japanese occupiers. His experience forged his fierce sense of nationalism and independence. He wrote about the fate of his countrymen under the pen name of Chetet until today, when he was a medical student in Singapore. After graduation, he entered politics and won the Kota Star seat in 1964. In the early years of his life in government, he held the education and also the international trade portfolios. He became Deputy Prime Minister in 1976 and Prime Minister in 1981. As Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir led Malaysia out of agriculture into industrialization and later on onto the knowledge economy. Mahathir is not one to be content with the way things are. He's always envisioning how things could be as a result of his vision and long-term thinking. We have the Patnas Twin Towers, KLIA, Putrajaya, Multimedia Corridor, and many other things. And now many Malaysians proudly own assets and companies abroad. I think he lets most of us by the nose to try our thing overseas. The best demonstration of his leadership are in times of crisis. Those of us in the room who are old enough to recall his unorthodox but ultimately successful approach to the Asian financial crisis. Because of his unorthodox approach, he was subjected then to ridicule and scorn from various quarters, including internationally, including IMF and others. But of course, subsequently they all admit that Tun was right. I am one of those many people who survived the financial crisis because of what Tun did. I think he did very brave things, going against conventional wisdom at that time. So Tun, a very big thank you to you. Thank you. Tun voluntarily stepped down as Prime Minister in 2003 and against all odds became our Prime Minister again in 2018. Thank God. It was essentially breathtaking electoral win that most people did not anticipate. So, winning the elections and toppling the previous government is never bigger thank you to you. I think it's the biggest thing that Malaysians have ever seen. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Mahathir accomplishments are too many for me to elaborate. And you're here to listen to him, his speech, and not mine. I will conclude by saying that our keynote speaker is a man who has definitely followed the path less traveled, a path of his own making, and his strength of character, deep intellect, and unconventional decisions is setting an example for the rest of us to only try to follow. We Malaysians are indeed fortunate to have such a leader in our midst. Now, to deliver the closing address for this forum, we hope he will answer also some questions after his speech, as he normally does. And that normally to me is the best, normally the better part of his, best part of his speech. So let's give a warm welcome Prime Minister of Malaysia.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Azman Hashim, Chairman, Board of Trustees dan Leadership Foundation. Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Mohamad, Executive Director Perdana Leadership Foundation. Yang berbahagia Dato' Abdul Rauf Rashid, Malaysia Managing Partner, Ernst & Young. Distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum and Salam Sejahtera. And I wish you a very good evening. It gives me great pleasure to be here at the 7th Perdana Leadership Foundation CEO Forum and to deliver the closing keynote address on Malaysia Incorporated 2.0. A First of all, before we go any further, let us look at what is defined as Malaysia Incorporated or simply Malaysia Inc. The concept of Malaysia Inc. is not new. It was introduced in Malaysia when I was the fourth Prime Minister of the country and was modeled on the success of Japan's rebuilding efforts after the Second World War. I say model because we did not copy the Japanese wholesale, but adapted some key practices which we felt were suitable to the working of the Malaysian economy. Malaysia Inc. achieved great success when it was introduced. At the time of its introduction, the business sector and the public sector did not see eye to eye on many issues and operated within their own silos, the private sector aiming to maximize profits for itself and the government focusing only on delivering services to the public. Malaysia Inc. helped establish communication channels between the private and the public sectors, thus enabling them to work together towards a common objective to develop Malaysia. The following are some key concepts of Malaysia Incorporated and why there is a need to revive it. Malaysia Incorporated, as I have explained during the initial stages of its formation, does not mean Malaysia is a company and I am its CEO as a sovereign state is never equal to a business entity. Rather, just like a firm is divided into different departments and that work together to achieve the organization's mission and vision, the nation too has different sectors that need to work together to achieve the country's big, ambitious goal, becoming a fully developed country with a robust, dynamic economy. The Malaysia Incorporated concept means that the private sector forms the commercial and economic arm of the national enterprise, while the government lays down the policy framework and direction, as well as gives support through its services. For the Malaysia Incorporated concept to be successful, we need to have the public and the private sector must see themselves as working to achieve a common goal, which is the growth, development and prosperity of Malaysia. Attitudes on both sides must reflect mutual cooperation, trust and understanding. It will not do for the private and public sectors to be confrontational with each other or to see each other as competitors. The public sector must not put up bureaucratic roadblocks that hinder potentially beneficial projects of economic progress. The government needs to ensure that bureaucratic procedures and requirements do not stifle innovation and progress. On the business side, there are rules and guidelines that are put in place to safeguard public interests, for example, laws regarding factory emissions, waste disposal and zoning, and the private sector needs to respect them and to ensure public health and safety is never compromised. And in line with the government's emphasis on transparency, accountability, and good governance, both private and public sectors must no longer indulge in bribery nor kickbacks. Both sectors have a responsibility to ensure the environment in Malaysia is such that it will be difficult for corruption to ever take root again. To this end, the government has formed a special cabinet committee on anti-corruption, launched the National Center for Governance, Integrity and Anti-Corruption Center, and the National Anti-Corruption Plan, and empowered the MACC through amending the MACC Act. I believe that these steps will yield results in the short and longer term. The government is serious about combating corruption, and I would urge all the business leaders here to do your bit, at the very least by not doing deals with companies that are involved in corrupt practices. Secondly, both the public and the private sectors have a joint responsibility to ensure the human and social needs of the workers, that is, the citizens of Malaysia, are looked after. Malaysia Incorporated does not mean the maximizing of profits at the neglect of all other concerns. The rights and privileges of the stakeholders of our nation, the Malaysian citizens, must be protected. Just like a company that cannot thrive when its staff are demoralized and unhappy, so too a country cannot achieve success if the majority of its citizens do not share in the growth of the national wealth. In line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal of reducing inequality, the government is committed to reducing the income gap within segments of the Malaysian population, but it cannot do this alone via government and the social services. The private sector needs to do its part by making sure that the increases in wages for workers is at a level comparable to the rise in profits and productivity. In terms of productivity, our labor productivity grew at a respectable rate in 2017 and 2018, but it still lags behind the most developed economies of the world. For instance, we need to be twice as productive to be at par with the productivity rates of developed economies. As such, we must increase our share of the skilled labor and reduce our reliance on cheap, low-skilled labor, as well as encourage digitalization in our industries, especially our SMEs, to see this rate increase. At present, 70% of our workforce are SPM graduates. Reskilling them for the new economy is crucial, as the government is also intent to reverse the trend of manufacturing companies, especially SMEs, to remain labor-intensive instead of investing in new technologies. Prosperity must be shared if there is to be stability. If only capital owners benefit from increases in profits, the inequality will lead to tension and resentment, ingredients for potential confrontations that in the long run will not be good for business. It is in the interest of business that salaries be fair and competitive. To encourage companies to review their pay levels regularly, the government is implementing regulations requiring public listed companies to disclose key pay metrics in annual reports, including lowest wage pay, average wage per worker, and highest and lowest wage ratio. These companies would also need to include a statement on how they intend to increase average wages. Through training and retraining schemes, the government aims to increase the supply of skilled labor that can command higher wages and reduce the mismatch between supply and demand in the private sector. We are also reviewing the education syllabus to ensure that we are equipping young Malaysians with computational thinking skills. This has become even more crucial with the move towards Industry 4.0 and factories turning to robotics, artificial intelligence, and automation to become more efficient. It is not a matter of choice, but a matter of necessity. To compete in the global marketplace of today, yesterday's labor-intensive model no longer works. Factories need to automate and workers need to reskill by learning programming, artificial intelligence, blockchain, network, infrastructure, and cybersecurity, among others. Third, for the private and public sectors to cooperate in a spirit of trust, there needs to be more open and frequent communication between the two sectors, with the private sector invited to give their opinions in consultative sessions related to the business policies, with policymakers and business owners being more in tune with the government's economic plans and goals. These sessions are there to remind the private sector of its social welfare responsibilities. Those are the three main components of Malaysia Incorporated. The need for public and private sectors to work with each other in a spirit of mutual support and understanding to achieve a common goal, which is the prosperity and growth of Malaysia. Second, the need to realize that growth and prosperity should not come at the expense of the welfare of the citizens of this nation. The human and social needs of Malaysians must be protected. The need for regular interaction and communication between the private and public sectors. This is essential. Ladies and gentlemen, the revival of Malaysia Incorporated is to drive home the point that Malaysia needs both private and public sectors to work together to become a fully developed nation. This government is business friendly and values the contribution of the business sector as a key growth driver. We realize that the business sector to be robust and dynamic, it needs an environment that is fair and competitive, with rules that are clearly stated and consistent, and the right incentives to encourage the growth of specific sectors. To encourage competitiveness and reduce wastage of public funds, we are opening up government contracts to open tenders instead of via direct negotiation. We have lowered corporate tax rates from 18% to 17% for SMEs with a paid-up capital of 2.5 million or less, to encourage the growth of the small business sector, which makes up the majority of businesses in Malaysia. We have allocated several billion ringgits to government funds investing in venture capital, green technology, Industry 4.0, digitalization, and the halal industry to encourage more players within these sectors. We also offer more than 130 incentives throughout our investment promotion agencies. We refrain from introducing new taxes in the latest budget except for a tax on sugar. And we have empowered the newly created Economic Action Council, EAC, to swiftly address our economic pain points. To the business leaders in this room, be assured that the government recognizes the importance of the private sector in our drive to accelerate Malaysia's growth and development, and this recognition is expressed through the policies and incentives we have put in place to enable the business sector to flourish. Ladies and gentlemen, I notice that the theme of this forum is on the fourth industrial revolution. It is timely. It is timely as the government realizes the need to make sure Malaysia is on par with the developed nations when it comes to our technological capabilities. In the 90s, the multimedia super corridor was created to encourage the emergence of tech industry in Malaysia. The idea was to make Malaysia an exporter of technology. Not only that, the MSC was a push to make Malaysians aware of the technological possibilities that existed. To my mind then, digital capabilities would allow Malaysia to punch above our weight when it comes to our share of the global economy. Just like our strategic location in the Straits of Malacca made us the center of East-West world trade, a successful digital hub could place a small country like ours among the world's top technology players. We may not yet have our Google